Thanks for checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board. If you enjoy the episode, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and you can check out all of my work, patreon.com/theFFeducator. This is episode 26 of the Rookie Big Board podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, and on today's episode, we are going to be digging into 2021 season projections, specifically looking at the rookie wide receiver position, and we're going to be in pursuit here of wide receivers that could potentially have a Justin Jefferson type season. Now, we're going to look at the phenomena of Justin Jefferson in 2020 for a few reasons. One, it's not common. It's not probable. You go back the last few seasons here and look at rookie wide receiver fantasy points per game. Justin Jefferson, 17.1. Next closest is Brandon Ayuk with 15.4. We know Brandon Ayuk had a limited season. That's a little bit different of a situation. How about some bigger names? Terry McLaurin, 13.7. A.J. Brown, 13.6. Chase Claypool, 13.4. Calvin Ridley, 12.9. So you go back and look at some of these really great rookie seasons. By the way, DK Metcalf, 11.7. And you're going to realize that what Justin Jefferson did, finishing as a wide receiver 1, is a real outlier. So we're going to look and see if any of the wide receivers here have the type of upside to have that wide receiver 1 type breakout season. The other thing we'll add in here is that, remember, Justin Jefferson was an early to mid-second round super flex pick last year in rookie drafts. So it's going to be about returning that value on investment as well. Do we have another gem here in the 2021 class that can produce similar numbers? And a quick recap here. In 16 games last year, Justin Jefferson did produce 88 receptions on 125 targets, a 70% catch rate for 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. So it very much was about the yardage and the high volume. And the touchdowns were good. It was 7, but it was not over the top, incredible, unmatchable here. Just 7 touchdowns here. Now, we're going to start here with number 8 here on the list. This is the 8th highest projected rookie wide receiver. And I should point out before I start here that full projections for every fantasy football player are available, patreon.com/theFFeducator. We're going to start here with Amon-Ra St. Brown out of Detroit. Now, I'm an Amon-Ra St. Brown fan. You would have gotten him a little bit cheaper than you got Justin Jefferson, mid to late second round pick. I think he comes with a nice floor here. I like his volume in this offense. I like Jared Goff in this offense. I know a lot of folks are down on Jared Goff, but when I look at what he can do well, I like him behind a reinforced Detroit offensive line. They put a lot of money into that. And I think that the game is going to go through Deandre Swift. Jared Goff does better when there's play action. Deandre Swift is going to put a legitimate threat to that play action. And then he's going to throw the ball. He's going to throw the ball to TJ Hawkinson first, and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown second. I don't see how Brashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams, Quintez Cephas are going to have a significantly higher market volume than Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have St. Brown projected at 18% of that market share. That equals 103 targets. That's over 100 targets. That's huge. It's not quite that Justin Jefferson number of 125, but it's a solid number. Now, I do think he's going to catch less than 70%, 66%, and I have him just coming in at 5 touchdowns. So I don't really see Amon-Ra St. Brown as a good candidate to be, quote, the next Justin Jefferson, but I do think he's a good fantasy asset, and I am confident projecting him here as wide receiver 42, so a wide receiver 4 type situation. That's pretty good for a rookie wide receiver. We're literally moving up just one spot to my wide receiver 41, and you're going to see a lot of similarities here in what I think Amari Rogers is going to project out to be here in the Green Bay offense. Now, first and foremost, the most important aspect here is that it looks like Aaron Rodgers, the more the summer goes on, the closer we get to the season, the more it seems like Aaron Rodgers actually will be playing for the Green Bay Packers, which is huge for Amari Rogers. Now, the difference being between Green Bay here and Detroit is, 1, Aaron Rodgers is a much better quarterback, and 2, we have Devonta Adams. But 3, I think we're going to be throwing the ball a pretty good amount here. I have Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball 540 times. It's a slight uptick from last year. I think Davante Adams is going to command 27% of the market share. We're not even going to get cute with that projection. Then I have Robert Tonyan with 12, but then I have Amari Rogers with 16 compared to 12% and 10% for Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, respectively here. Now, when you look at Amari Rogers, the way he's going to win, I think they're going to put him in the slot. He's going to dominate over in the middle of the field, and I think he's just going to eat target, eat volume, and that's really clutch. But I do think that still only results in 86 targets. That's not close to 125, and I also have him at 5 receiving touchdowns. I also think his yards per reception is not going to be super high. I have it at 12, which is decent, but it's not super exciting. So, Amari Rogers comes in at wide receiver 41. I think he's a nice late-round pick if we're talking specifically seasonal. But I don't think he's going to get up into Justin Jefferson territory. Now, somebody I'm really excited about, and you know I'm excited about him. I talk about him a ton. It's Terrace Marshall. Now, he's currently projected right now as wide receiver 38, and I just did a major update here for my 2021 season projections where I went through and I really tweaked each of the offenses. I really dug into scheme, understanding the offensive coordinator, understanding the offensive situation, how things have progressed over the offseason, and I still like Terrace Marshall a ton. What's important to realize here is even though I'm telling you I project Terrace Marshall out to be wide receiver 38, projections don't necessarily tell you, I have 100% confidence that Terrace Marshall is going to finish this wide receiver 38. I'm showing you the range of outcomes, and I think it's within the range of outcomes for Terrace Marshall to finish as a top 20, even top 15 wide receiver here. It's all going to depend on what Sam Darnold does. So this is a conservative projection for me for Terrace Marshall, but I still like him a ton. All right, I have him getting 94 targets here for 841 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. The key is going to be the receiving yards. Now, that's the number, 841. It's significantly less than the 1,400 that Justin Jefferson put up because of DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Now, here's the key, though. It's how efficient can Sam Darnold be? Because I think he's going to throw the ball a ton. Joe Brady had Teddy Bridgewater throw the ball a ton, and I think they're going to be more confident in Sam Darnold than they were in Teddy Bridgewater. So, he's going to push the ball downfield more, and who's going to get those? That's the big question here. When it comes to the Carolina offense, I have Sam Darnold at 65% completion rate. He bumps that up to 70% completion rate. We're looking at a huge uptick for Terrace Marshall. I have Sam Darnold with a fairly low 11.5 yards per completion. We bump that up a few yards per completion. We're looking at a different Terrace Marshall. There's more opportunity. Looking at Marshall compared to the other wide receivers here, I have DJ Moore at 22% of the market and Robbie Anderson at 20% of the market, and then Terrace Marshall at 16% of the market. Everybody's forgetting about Terrace Marshall and Robbie Anderson, quite frankly. Everybody's focused on DJ Moore, and even I think he's going at a good value. There's not enough confidence in this Carolina offense, and I understand behind Sam Darnold, but if you look at what Teddy Bridgewater was able to do, Sam Darnold is an immediate improvement, and he provides some serious upside. So although, yeah, I'm projecting conservatively, if you go ahead and you slide even 4% of that market share from Robbie Anderson to Terrace Marshall, you move Sam Darnold's numbers a little bit like I just mentioned, and we could easily see Terrace Marshall in the top 10 to 15. So although I'm not banking on him, especially this season, you better believe I have Terrace Marshall literally everywhere I can have him. And if you want to draft him to be a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 overall, I'm excited to do that. I'm happy to do that because I think he has that upside and that potential. So do I feel confident enough saying that he could be the next Justin Jefferson? No, I don't think so, just because I like DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson as well. But if you look at can Terrace Marshall in 3 years be putting up Justin Jefferson numbers, I absolutely think he can. In the meantime here, he's falling into wide receiver 6 territory in terms of rookie wide receivers in my 2021 specific projections. I know that's getting a little convoluted here, but we're going to jump next into Elijah Moore for the New York Jets. Elijah Moore is an interesting one. I think he's a really hot name because he's really stood out on all of the beat reports in the offseason, but I'm not surprised. I expected him to stand out on the beat reports, and I have him coming in as wide receiver 35. That makes him a wide receiver 3. That's pretty strong redraft territory. If we're talking about, I've listed all my wide receiver 4s and up, but, settling into this wide receiver 3 territory, I think that's pretty exciting. What's good about Elijah Moore is that it seems like Denzel Mims is not having a good offseason. And that was one of the biggest updates that I made to the New York Jets offense. I gave Elijah Moore more of the market share here and took some away from Denzel Mims. And I'm not too worried about Corey Davis because I actually think he's going to help open up the offense a decent amount. So when looking at Elijah Moore's stat line, I have 106 targets. That's high. That's 19% of the market here. I have 560 projected passes for Zack Wilson. And the New York Jets, I think they're going to want to sling the ball with him a lot, especially looking at the lack of investment that they made in their running game. So I have Elijah Moore leading this team in targets. Corey Davis coming in at 17% of the market share compared to Elijah Moore's 19%. By the way, Denzel Mims I bumped down to 13%, even with Keelan Cole here. But 855 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. It's the yardage which I think could stop Elijah Moore from necessarily having a huge breakout season. And it's really just a lack of confidence in Zack Wilson. And it's not a total knock on Zack Wilson. I am nervous to get excited about him as an NFL quarterback. We've talked about that before. But it's also how much are you really going to put on a rookie quarterback? And you look at the weapons here. I think they're really going to hammer underneath here, hammer the short side of the field, try to slow the game down as best as they can for Zack Wilson, and they'll certainly air it out. Elijah Moore will certainly make things happen after the catch. So, like I said, I'm a fan of him. He's coming in at wide receiver 35 overall, absolutely an option in redraft leagues. I don't see him necessarily getting to that Justin Jefferson level. Coming in next here is Devonta Smith, and it's hard not to get excited about Devonta Smith, especially in 2021. I'm not holding back on my Devonta Smith love. I got to tell you, he was available in the 10th round of the Scott Fish Bowl here, which if you're not familiar, it's a redraft league. I had just drafted 5 wide receivers in a row because I faded them in the first 4 rounds, and I still drafted Devonta Smith with that 6th pick right there, 6 wide receivers in a row, despite the fact that I hadn't drafted a tight end yet because I just couldn't pass on Devonta Smith at that value. I am coming in at wide receiver 24 here. Now, this was probably one of the biggest updates I made across the board with my projections for those following along from June to July. I just didn't have Jalen Hurts at enough passing attempts. My initial thought was that Jalen Hurts was not efficient last year. I thought they would probably push the ball towards the run a little bit more. But if you actually look at what the team is telling you, they've invested a lot of resources into the passing game. And when I went back and really looked at the attempts per game, despite the fact that Jalen Hurts was not efficient, they were having him throw the ball a lot. So I am worried about Jalen Hurts in terms of being a good quarterback in the NFL, consistently passing the ball. But what I'm not afraid of is the fact that I think he's going to throw the ball. So I bumped him up to 575 passing attempts. And guess what? I'm not scared of Jalen Reagor. I wasn't scared of Jalen Reagor last year. It was one of the, I think I had him projected as wide receiver 7 or 8 last year for seasonal projections. Everybody hated on me for that. And I'm pretty sure I nailed his stat line almost on the dot. I mean, not only his skill set just didn't translate to a quick transition to the NFL. I think Devonta Smith does. He knows how to win one-on-one. He knows how to get open. He can break off a tough slant. He knows how to find space. And those were all things that Jalen Reagor wasn't able to do. If you're a young quarterback trying to keep your job, trying to make your mark in the NFL, you're going to throw to the guy that separates easily. And I think that's really important for Devonta Smith, and I think that's what's going to help him really stand out. So I am at 115 targets. That's getting close to that Justin Jefferson number. 14 yards per reception. That's getting close to that Justin Jefferson number. 6 receiving touchdowns. Again, that's close. So I think Devonta Smith, he's a decent candidate, but I'm not so sure. What I think really helped Justin Jefferson was having Adam Thielen on the other side pulling open coverage. Can Dallas Goedert do that to a degree? Can a mix and mash of Reagor and Greg Ward and Travis Fulgham create that? Potentially. And so I think Devonta Smith is a decent candidate here. He's my 4th highest rated, or I should say 3rd highest projected rookie wide receiver. I think we're starting to get into the territory of really serious options here for a Justin Jefferson-esque season. I don't quite see it with Devonta Smith. Maybe similar to what A.J. Brown put up. I mentioned A.J. Brown in fantasy points per game was 13.6. It's 217 PPR fantasy points. When I look at what I have projected out for Devonta Smith, it's very similar here. I'm at 212 fantasy points or 13.3 per game. And I see that, and I'm not comparing their play styles necessarily right now, but I'm talking about just purely how I see their ability to produce in their first year. All right, coming in here at number 2, the second highest projected rookie wide receiver for me is Jalen Waddle. This should come as no surprise. I'm higher than Jalen Waddle on most folks. I will continue to be higher than Jalen Waddle on most folks. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Like I said, that was something that I had to deal with Justin Jefferson. That's completely fine. When I look at my projections, when I look at the numbers, I ride with them. And I like where Jalen Waddle will be in the Miami offense. Now, part of this projection, and this has to be a disclaimer, if you know me, you know this to be true. I believe in Tua. I think Tua is going to take a big step in this offense, and I think you have to lean into the unknown. I think one of the reasons that people faded Justin Jefferson so hard last year is because they didn't believe in Kirk Cousins. And so I think folks are making a similar mistake here, fading Jalen Waddle because they don't believe in Tua. And I think Tua has the potential to be a much, much, much better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. So I'm happy to invest in Jalen Waddle here. I have him projected out for 103 targets, so not quite that 125, but the yardage is there. This is going to be the highest number you've heard yet. 1,123 yards and 6 touchdowns. I'm at 15.5 yards per reception. That's what's key. I think he could stretch the field, be a big threat, big downfield threat. And so I'm really into that here when it comes to Jalen Waddle specifically. Do I think he could be Justin Jefferson? He's falling a little short in some of those categories, but I have him projected out to be wide receiver 18, so I think he has the ability to push that envelope, be a wide receiver 1 within the realm of possibilities here. Naturally, you're going to say, what about Will Fuller? I have him equal. I have Will Fuller 18% of the market share as well. Devonta Parker 15% of the market share. But I think they're going to phase out Mike Gesicki. I think they're going to be really focused in, honed in on Jalen Waddle and Will Fuller and really allowing Tua to step in and be the guy. All right, the last player here, no surprise, and I did a full breakdown on Jamar Chase about 3 episodes ago perhaps, so I'm not going to do too much on Jamar Chase. But if you're looking at the numbers here, Jamar Chase is probably going to come the closest. All right, I have Jamar Chase at 125 targets. Bingo, that's the number we've been looking for, and we know volume is king. I am at 1,100 yards, so that still 300 yards short of Justin Jefferson, and I have him at 6 touchdowns. So again, a little bit shorter here. It's 20% of the market share. I'm not going to get too into the Bengals offense because, like I said, I did a full episode on Jamar Chase specifically, but they're going to throw the ball a whole ton. So now let's compare values of the guys I've talked about. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, first-round picks. You had to use first-round picks on all of those guys. So although I think that they are the ones who my projections come closest to what Justin Jefferson did last year, I don't think you could say they're going to be the next Justin Jefferson simply because I don't see, the value is not there. You had to pay up for that. You didn't have to pay up for Justin Jefferson last year. You could have gotten him with a mid to early second-round pick. So then you fall in that Elijah Moore, Terrace Marshall category. I'm going to jump back to those guys here in a second because I'm going to rule out Amari Rogers, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just don't think the volume is going to be there in the same way. Now, Elijah Moore, Terrace Marshall, those are the guys I think are going to find in the sweet spot right now, where although in my projections I technically don't have them as wide receiver 1s, I think it's within the realm of possibilities that either one of these guys could have that meteoric rise. I will say for both of them, their challenges are the wide receiver room around them. They both have to fight off a few guys with similar market capacities, and they both have to rely on quarterbacks taking a big step. Sam Darnold has to have a resurgence, but he's got Joe Brady, and that offense makes me more confident. Elijah Moore, we're not sure what that offense is going to look like exactly. If it has that creative element like we saw in San Francisco and Zack Wilson fits into that and he can hit the ground running, I think you have good value. You look at the draft positions, Elijah Moore, Terrace Marshall both fall in that early to mid-second round range. So the conclusion here is I think you're a little foolish if you're actually chasing a 2021 Justin Jefferson. This is a phenomenon that you should have jumped ahead of when you could. I'm glad that I was able to provide that type of insight. But my insight this year is that you're going to get a little bit more what you pay for, at least in 2021. But I think you should be getting Elijah Moore and Terrace Marshall anytime you can in redraft because I think they're going to return really, really great value. And if you look at value versus projection, those are the two candidates that I'm going to say have the greatest chance of, quote, being this year's Justin Jefferson. But if you look at the raw numbers, I think you're getting what you pay for here, with Jamar Chase having my highest projection, Jalen Waddle next, and then Devonta Smith third. Maybe Jalen Waddle is the best value because he was potentially going second, or I should say he was potentially going third or even fourth in rookie drafts, and he might be falling down a little bit because folks are writing off Tua. But the overall conclusion here, I know we're in search of the next Justin Jefferson, but I don't think we actually necessarily have that here. If you're interested in digging into the full projections for everybody, not just the rookie wide receivers, not just the rookies, but all players, patreon.com/the FF Educator. You could check out all of that, as well as get my Dynasty rankings, Devy rankings, and of course, we're already building the 2022 rookie big board, putting tape evaluations on there. I appreciate you listening. Make sure to subscribe to the show. Make sure to leave a review. Give it the thumbs up. Thanks as always.